Welcome to Subscribe, continually updated.
You know that feeling when you realize something's wrong, but you can't quite put your finger on it? Like when you walk into a room and forget why you went in there. That was me, standing in the kitchen, staring at my phone. Only I knew exactly why I felt sick to my stomach. It was a Friday afternoon. I remember because I'd just finished cleaning the house, the way you do before the weekend, you know? Get everything squared away so you can actually relax. Our house isn't fancy, nothing like the houses in Lisa's neighborhood, but it's ours. Me and Mike bought it 6 years ago, right before Lily was born. A little 3-bedroom over on Elm Street. Needs a new roof, the driveway's cracked, and the garage door sticks every time it rains. But it's home. Anyway, I'm standing there in the kitchen, wiping down the counter for the 3rd time that day, when my phone buzzes. It's the neighborhood group chat. You know the one I'm talking about. Every street has one. Ours is called Pinebrook Pals, which sounds adorable until you realize it's basically just people sharing pictures of lost cats and complaining about garbage pickup. I opened it up, expecting another photo of somebody's dog digging up their petunias. But it wasn't a dog. It was a picture. A group picture. And my heart just dropped. There they were. All of them. Lisa and her husband, Steve. The Johnsons from 2 doors down. The Millers. The Parkers. Even the new couple who just moved in, the ones whose name I can never remember. They were all standing on Lisa's deck, holding glasses of wine, grinning like they just won the lottery. The caption said, "Annual Pinebrook Summer Kickoff. Can't wait to see everyone Saturday night." Everyone. I zoomed in on the photo. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted to see if I'd missed something. If maybe we were in the background somewhere, blocked by a potted plant or something. But no. We weren't there. Because we weren't invited. I read the comments scrolling underneath. "So excited," from Karen Johnson. "What can I bring," from Tom Miller. "We'll be there with bells on," from Sarah Parker. Message after message from people who clearly got the invitation. The invitation I never even knew existed. Now, here's the thing about Lisa. She and I used to be close. I mean, real close. We'd have coffee together, watch each other's kids, complain about our husbands. The usual stuff. Our daughters, Lily and Emma, they're in the same class at school. They have playdates all the time. Or they used to, anyway. The last couple months, things have felt different. Distant. I told myself I was imagining it. You know how it is. People get busy. Summer comes, schedules change. I figured it was nothing. But this? This wasn't nothing. I must have been staring at my phone for a solid 5 minutes because Mike came in from the garage and said, "Jen? You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." Mike. God, I love him. He's not a fancy guy. Works at a distribution center, comes home with his hands dirty, always smells a little like axle grease. But he's solid. He's the kind of guy who fixes things, you know? Not just cars and lawnmowers. He fixes problems. He listens. And he can always tell when something's eating at me. I held up my phone. "Look at this." He wiped his hands on a rag and took it from me. I watched his face as he scrolled through the photo, the comments, the whole thing. His jaw tightened. That little muscle in his cheek started twitching the way it does when he's trying not to swear in front of Lily. "Well," he said finally, handing the phone back. "Guess we know where we stand." That was it. No big speech. No, I'm gonna go give them a piece of my mind. Just that. Because that's Mike. He doesn't waste words. But I could see it in his eyes. He was hurt. Not for himself. He couldn't care less about some party. But for me. And for Lily. Lily. Oh, she's only 5, but she notices everything. She's got these big brown eyes that just soak up the world. And she loves Emma. Talks about her constantly. Mommy, can Emma come over? Mommy, Emma said I could have one of her sparkly pencils. Mommy, Emma's mom has a pool. Can we get a pool? It breaks my heart just thinking about it. I put my phone down and tried to act normal. It's fine, I said. It's just a party. Who cares? The words sounded stupid even as they came out of my mouth. Because I did care. I cared a lot. And Mike knew it. He walked over and put his arm around me. His hand smelled like oil, but I didn't mind. It's not fine, he said quietly. And you don't have to pretend it is. We stood there for a minute, just the two of us in the kitchen with the afternoon sun coming through the window and the sound of some kid's basketball bouncing down the street. Normal sounds. Normal life. But everything felt different now. Daddy, look what I found. Lily came tearing into the kitchen holding a ladybug in her cupped hands. She was grinning, all missing front teeth and messy ponytail. The ladybug crawled up her thumb, and she giggled. That's a good one, Bug, Mike said, scooping her up. He called her Bug because when she was a baby, she used to curl up in a ball and looked just like a little potato bug. The nickname stuck. Can I keep it? Nah, you gotta let it go outside. It's got a family to get back to. She nodded seriously, like this was the most important piece of information she'd ever received. Okay, Daddy. She carried the ladybug carefully to the back door and let it go into the garden. Then she turned around and said, Mommy, can Emma come over tomorrow? Her mommy's having a party and I want to show her my new dress. I felt my chest tighten. Oh, sweetie. Who told you about the party? Emma did. Yesterday at school. She said it's gonna be so fun. There's gonna be cake and a bouncy castle. Can we go? Please? I looked at Mike. He looked at me. Neither of us knew what to say. Maybe, I said finally. We'll see, okay? That night, after Lily was in bed, I laid there staring at the ceiling. Mike was asleep, snoring softly, one arm draped over my waist. But I couldn't sleep. My brain just kept circling and circling. Why? What did I do? Was it something I said? Something Mike did? Were we not good enough for Lisa's fancy party? The worst part was, I started going through everything in my head. Every conversation I'd had with Lisa for the past month. The way she'd been too busy for coffee. The way she'd stopped texting first. The way her smile didn't quite reach her eyes the last time we ran into each other at the grocery store. All the little signs I'd convinced myself to ignore were suddenly screaming at me. And then I thought about the other families. The Johnsons. The Millers. The Parkers. Were they all in on it? Did they all know we were being left out? Did they talk about it? The worst thought, the one that crept in around 3 in the morning, was this: maybe Lisa had been planning this for a while. Maybe she'd been slowly, carefully, cutting us out. And I'd been too stupid to notice. I must have fallen asleep eventually because the next thing I knew, sunlight was coming through the blinds and Lily was jumping on the bed. Mommy. Mommy. Is today the party day? Can we go? I sat up, rubbing my eyes. I don't know, Bug. Mommy has to talk to Mrs. Lisa first. The truth was, I hadn't heard a word from Lisa. Not a phone call. Not a text. Nothing. I got up, made coffee, went through the motions. Mike came down, gave me a kiss on the forehead, and said, "What do you want to do?" I don't know, I said honestly. Part of me wants to march over there and make a scene. And the other part? The other part just wants to cry. He nodded. You go talk to her. I'll watch Lily. And Jen? He waited until I looked at him. Whatever happens, remember who we are. We don't need their approval. Easy for him to say. He wasn't the one who'd just been kicked out of the neighborhood mom club. I put on some decent clothes, fixed my hair, and walked over to Lisa's house. Her house is the biggest one on the street. 2 stories, white trim, a 3-car garage, and a pool in the back. The driveway was already packed with cars. The party wasn't supposed to start until later, but I guess some people came early to help set up. Or maybe they just wanted to be seen. I rang the doorbell. Through the window, I could see people moving around inside, carrying trays of food and decorations. My hands were shaking. Lisa opened the door. She was wearing one of those flowy summer dresses that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. Her hair was perfect. Her makeup was perfect. And the look on her face when she saw me, it wasn't surprise. It was something else. Something harder to read. "Jen," she said. "What are you doing here?" Not "Hi, come in." Not "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you came." Just, "What are you doing here?" I swallowed. "Lisa, can we talk?" She glanced behind her, then stepped outside and pulled the door almost shut. "I'm kind of busy right now. The party's in a few hours and I've got a million things to do." "I noticed," I said. "The party. The one I wasn't invited to." She had the decency to look uncomfortable, at least. She shifted her weight, crossed her arms. "Look, it's nothing personal. It's just space, you know? We've got a lot of people coming. The deck can only hold so many." The deck. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Lisa, that deck can hold 50 people. And you've invited everyone on the street except us. Even the new couple. What did we do?" She sighed, like I was the one being unreasonable. "You didn't do anything, okay? It's just, things change. People change. Maybe it's better if we take a little break from all the, you know." "No," I said, my voice getting louder. "I don't know." She looked at me then, really looked at me, and for a second I thought I saw something flicker in her eyes. Guilt? Pity? I couldn't tell. But it was gone as fast as it appeared. "Look, I'm sorry you're upset," she said. "But I've got guests arriving soon. We can talk about this another time, okay?" She turned back toward the door. "And Jen? Don't make this weird." "Too late," I said. But she was already inside, the door closing behind her with a soft click. Weird. That's what she called it. I stood on her perfect porch, looking at her perfect door, and I felt something shift inside me. All the hurt, all the confusion, all the sadness, it started changing into something else. Something harder. Something sharper. Because here's the thing Lisa didn't know about me. The thing nobody in this neighborhood knew about me. Before I was a mom, before I was Mike's wife, before I was the quiet neighbor who kept to herself, I had a different life. A life where I learned a thing or two about how to handle people who think they're better than everyone else. My dad used to say, "Jenny, you can't control how people treat you. But you can control how you respond. And sometimes, the best response isn't a fight. It's a move so clean, so unexpected, they never see it coming." I turned and walked back down Lisa's driveway, past all the fancy cars, past the landscaped flower beds, past the sign that said welcome. Welcome. What a joke. When I got home, Mike was in the garage, working on an old lawnmower someone had asked him to fix. He looked up when I walked in and immediately knew. "That bad, huh?" "Worse," I said. I told him everything. Every word Lisa said. Every lie she told. When I finished, he wiped his hands on a rag and said, "So what now?" I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Now," I said, "we get creative." I went inside and found Lily coloring at the kitchen table. She looked up with those big brown eyes and said, "Did Mrs. Lisa say we could come to the party?" "No, Bug," I said. "We're not going to the party." Her face fell. "But Emma said," I know what Emma said. But you know what? Sometimes people forget to invite us to things. And that's okay. Because we're going to show them something even better. What? We're going to remind them who we are. I didn't know exactly what I meant yet. But as I sat down next to Lily and watched her color, an idea started forming in my head. A small idea at first. Then bigger. And bigger. Lisa's party would go on without us. Everyone would drink her wine and eat her food and swim in her pool. They'd laugh and take pictures and post them in the group chat. And they'd forget all about the family on Elm Street that wasn't good enough to be there. But that was okay. Because by the time the party was over, by the time the last guest had gone home, one of them would open an envelope. An envelope with my name on it. And everything Lisa had built, all her perfect little world, it would start to crack. And the best part? I'd be sitting on my own back porch, drinking a beer with Mike, watching the sun go down. Listening. Just listening. Because sometimes the most powerful thing in the world isn't making a scene. It's waiting for the right moment. And then pulling the thread that makes the whole sweater unravel. The envelope was ready. I just needed to decide who would be the one to open it. And I knew exactly who it would be. The Saturday of Lisa's party started like any other summer Saturday on Elm Street. Lawn mowers humming a few houses down. The smell of charcoal and burgers drifting up from the Parker's grill. Sprinklers ticking in the sunshine. And then the truck started rolling in. A white party rental truck backed into Lisa's driveway at 10 in the morning, followed by a van that said Ultimate Bounce on the side. I stood at my kitchen window, nursing a cup of coffee, and watched them set up. A massive inflatable castle went up in the backyard, bright purple and yellow, with a slide that curved into a kiddie pool. Tables with white linen draped over them. A tent with strings of lights. A sound system. Mike came up beside me and let out a low whistle. Looks like she's throwing a wedding, not a summer bash. Go big or go home, I said, taking a sip of coffee. And Lisa definitely doesn't plan on going home. Lily padded into the kitchen in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. Mommy, is that for the party? Emma said there'd be a Princess Castle bounce house. Can we go? I crouched down and smoothed her hair. Not our party, sweetie. But guess what? We're having our own fun today. Daddy and I were thinking, movie marathon and homemade pizza. How does that sound? Her face lit up. Can we watch Encanto again? We can watch it twice if you want. She bounced off to the living room, already singing about Bruno. Crisis averted. For now. I turned back to the window. Mike rested his hand on my shoulder. You sure about this, Jen? Whatever it is you're planning? I reached into the pocket of my shorts and pulled out a white envelope. It was sealed. On the front, written in careful block letters, was my name, Jennifer Morgan. I'm sure, I said. You gonna tell me what's in it? I looked up at him. Remember when we first met? I told you I used to do something different before I moved here. You asked what, and I said I'd tell you someday. He nodded slowly. Someday's getting close. I tucked the envelope back into my pocket. Right now, I just need you to trust me. And keep Lily busy this afternoon. Mike studied my face for a long moment. Then he kissed my forehead. You got it. By 2 o'clock, the party was in full swing. Cars lined both sides of the street. I could hear music thumping, kids shrieking with laughter, the clink of glasses. From my front porch, I watched neighbors arrive in sundresses and polo shirts, carrying covered dishes and bottles of wine. The Hendersons. The Parkers. Then Gwyn's. The new couple from the end of the block, the ones who'd moved in just 3 months ago. All of them. Every single one. Except us. Lily was curled up on the couch with a bowl of popcorn, Mirabelle on the screen. Mike dozed in the recliner, one eye half open. I checked my watch. 2:15, almost time. I slipped out the back door and walked down our driveway to the mailbox. Parked in front of our house was a blue Prius. The driver's side door was open, and a woman was leaning against it, scrolling through her phone. Her name was Carolyn Reeves. She was the head of the Elm Street Neighborhood Association, the unofficial mayor of our little suburban kingdom. Mid-50s, retired school principal, the kind of woman who wore sensible sandals and kept a mental list of every homeowner who let their grass get too high. She also had something Lisa desperately wanted: influence over the annual neighborhood awards. Lisa's house had been up for Best Landscaping 3 years running, and she'd lost every time to the wins. This year, rumor had it, Lisa was pulling out all the stops to finally win. Carolyn looked up as I approached. "Oh, Jen. I'm just heading to Lisa's party. Aren't you going?" I gave her a wry smile. "Didn't make the guest list." Her eyebrows shot up. "You're kidding." "Nope." I held up the envelope. "But I'm not here to crash it. I was wondering if you could do me a huge favor." Carolyn's eyes flicked to the envelope, then back to my face. "What kind of favor?" "This is just a card for Lisa. A little thank you. She helped me out with something a while back, and I wanted to surprise her. But, given the circumstances, I think it'd be better if it came from someone else. Someone nobody would question." I paused. "Could you slip it into her gift table? Just tuck it under the pile of cards. No big announcement. No need to even say it's from me. She'll know when she opens it." Carolyn frowned. "Jen, if there's some kind of tension between you two, I don't want to get in the middle of." "There's no tension," I said, my voice calm and steady. "And this isn't a trick. I promise. It's just a thank you note. I'd deliver it myself, but you know how these things are. I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable." She looked at the envelope. "At the block letters on the front. My name. Why does it have your name on it if it's for Lisa?" "So she doesn't think it's from someone else and toss it. Trust me, Carolyn. It'll make sense when she reads it." A long pause. Then Carolyn sighed and took the envelope. "Fine. But if this turns into some kind of drama, I'm telling everyone you tricked me." "It won't be drama," I said. "It'll just be clarity." She tucked the envelope into her oversized tote bag and gave me one last look. Then she climbed into her car and drove the 50 yards to Lisa's house. I walked back inside. The air conditioning hit my skin like a blessing. In the living room, Lily was still glued to the TV, and Mike had drifted off for real, mouth slightly open. I sat down at the kitchen table and poured myself a glass of iced tea. And I waited. At 3:47, my phone buzzed. A text from Carolyn. I put it on the table. Didn't say anything. "But Jen, what's really in that envelope?" I didn't reply. At 4:22, the music from across the street changed. Someone turned down the party playlist, and I heard a sharp voice. Lisa's voice. Couldn't make out the words, but the tone was unmistakable. Panic. At 4:29, the first guests started leaving. Not the casual, lingering departures of people who'd had too much sun and too many burgers. Quick exits. Shotgun doors. Cars pulling away with too much acceleration. At 4:35, my front doorbell rang. I took my time answering it. When I opened the door, Carolyn Reeves was standing on my porch, flanked by 2 other neighbors, Melanie Park and Diane Gwynn. All 3 of them looked like they'd just watched someone kick a puppy. "Jen." Carolyn's face was pale. "That envelope. Did you know? Did you know what was in it?" I tilted my head. "What was in it?" Diane held up her phone. "Someone posted it in the Elm Street group chat. It's a photo of a bank statement. Lisa's bank statement. From the Neighborhood Beautification Fund account." Melanie's voice was shaking. "Jen, is it true? Did Lisa really take $12,000 from the fund? The fund we all donated to?" The one she was supposed to be managing? I stepped aside and held the door open. Why don't you all come in? I think we need to talk. They filed inside, and I closed the door behind them. In the living room, Mike was awake now, blinking and confused. Lily had paused the movie and was staring at the crowd of women taking over our kitchen. Honey, I said to Mike, could you take Lily out back and get the sprinkler going? I think she could use some fresh air. Mike didn't ask questions. He just scooped up Lily and headed for the backyard. That's one of the things I love most about him. Once they were gone, I turned back to the women. I didn't take the money, I said quietly. I'm not the one who's been siphoning from the beautification fund for the past 18 months. But I've been doing some research since I started suspecting something was off. And I found the account. Traced the withdrawals. Got the statements. Carolyn sat down heavily at my kitchen table. Why? Why would you do this on the day of her party? In front of everyone? Because 2 months ago, she froze me out. For no reason. And last week, she told me to my face that I wasn't good enough for her party. That my family wasn't welcome. I pulled out a chair and sat down across from her. I didn't want to destroy her party. I wanted to give her a choice. She could have opened that envelope in private, confessed quietly, and paid back the money. Instead, someone, maybe Lisa herself, maybe someone else, opened it in front of half the neighborhood. And now everyone knows. Diane shook her head. But how did you get that statement? You're not on the committee. I met her eyes. Before I moved here, before I was a stay-at-home mom, I was a forensic accountant. I investigated corporate fraud for a living. I put people in prison for doing exactly what Lisa did. The silence that followed was so deep I could hear the refrigerator humming. Carolyn let out a long breath. Oh, Lisa. You picked the wrong woman to mess with. I leaned back in my chair. She'll deny it. She'll say it's a setup. She'll try to spin it. But the numbers don't lie. And I've got 18 months of statements, all authenticated. What do you want? Melanie asked. From us? From the neighborhood? I thought about it for a moment. Honestly? I don't want anything. I just wanted the truth to come out. And I wanted Lisa to understand something. I looked toward the window, toward the house across the street where the party was now officially dead. Being excluded doesn't make you powerless. Sometimes it gives you the one thing you need to see clearly. Carolyn reached across the table and put her hand on mine. I'm sorry we didn't notice what she was doing to you. We should have. You're noticing now. Through the window, I could see Lisa standing in her driveway, alone, watching the last car pull away. Her shoulders were hunched. Her arms wrapped around herself like she was trying to hold something broken together. She looked small. Smaller than I'd ever seen her. And I felt something I didn't expect. Not triumph. Not satisfaction. Pity. Because Lisa thought this was the end of the story. She thought the worst was over. She had no idea that the envelope on the gift table wasn't the only one I'd prepared. And the second one was addressed to the entire neighborhood association. The doorbell rang at 9 the next morning. Saturday. The kind of Saturday that was supposed to be for yard work and coffee on the porch. But instead I had 3 neighbors standing on my front step, looking like they'd been awake since dawn. Carolyn Reeves was in front, her gray hair pinned back tighter than usual. Behind her stood Tom Harrison, the association's treasurer, and next to him was Marcia Dunn, who'd been Lisa's closest friend on the block for the past 4 years. Marcia looked like she'd been crying. Tom looked like he was about to meet a firing squad. Jen, can we come in? Carolyn's voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. Not the principal voice. The human being voice. I stepped aside. Coffee's fresh. Mike took one look at the group and grabbed Lily. Hey kiddo, let's go hit the donut shop. Give Mom some time. He kissed my cheek on his way out. Didn't ask questions. Didn't need to. They settled around my kitchen table, the same table where I'd hosted book club last year before Lisa started finding reasons to leave me off the invite list. Funny how circles work. Carolyn didn't waste time. Last night, after you left, we found Lisa in her garage. She was not doing well. Her husband was with her. He didn't know anything about the money. Can you imagine? Finding out your wife stole $12,000 at a neighborhood party? I could imagine a lot of things. That was the problem. We talked for 2 hours, Carolyn continued. And this morning I got an email from you. The subject line said second envelope. What's in it, Jen? What else is there? Marcia spoke up, her voice cracking. I didn't know about the money. I swear to God. Lisa was my friend, but I never knew. Please, if there's something about me in there, just tell me. I pulled the envelope from my bag. Same kind as the first one. Plain white. Unremarkable. The sort of thing you'd use for a thank you note, which is exactly what everyone thought Carolyn was delivering last night. This, I said, isn't about you, Marcia. It's about all of us. About how we build neighborhoods and what we're willing to ignore to keep things pretty. I opened it. Inside were printed emails. 18 months of them. Not between Lisa and a bank. Between Lisa and Tom Harrison. Tom's face went pale as he scanned the top page. Those emails, I said, are about the Neighborhood Beautification Fund. Specifically, about a little side arrangement where Lisa would over-invoice for landscaping services and Tom would sign off on it. In exchange, Lisa made sure Tom's pet project, the community garden, got extra funding. Funding that never actually went to any garden. That's not, Tom started. Let me finish. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't need to. The garden got $5,000 over 2 years. Except the garden's receipts don't match the withdrawals. You know where that money went? Into a new riding mower. One that sits in your shed. I checked the serial number. Carolyn stared at him. Tom? I was going to pay it back, he said. I had a plan. Lisa said she'd cover for me until Lisa started using her own scheme to pay for the vacations she couldn't afford and the kitchen remodel she thought would make her happy, I said. And suddenly you were both trapped. You couldn't expose her without exposing yourself. The kitchen went quiet. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked. Someone was mowing their lawn, probably Bob from 2 houses down, who did his grass every Saturday at exactly 10 o'clock no matter what was happening in anyone else's life. Carolyn turned to me. What are you going to do with this? That was the question, wasn't it? The old me, the forensic accountant, would have already had the police on the phone. I'd put people in prison for less. I'd built cases on smaller evidence and felt nothing but the satisfaction of a job well done. But I wasn't that person anymore. Not completely. I don't want to destroy anyone, I said. I wanted Lisa to stop. I wanted her to see what it felt like to be the one standing alone in a driveway. But this, the second envelope, was never meant to be a weapon. It was meant to be a mirror. I slid the papers back inside but left the envelope on the table between us. Here's what happens now. Tom, you're going to resign as treasurer this week. You're going to return the mower or donate it to an actual community garden. Lisa is going to pay back every cent, and I don't care if it takes her 5 years. And Carolyn, you're going to call a neighborhood meeting. For what? Carolyn asked. To talk. Really talk. Not about lawn heights and mailbox styles. About what kind of block we want to be. Whether we're going to keep pretending everything's fine while people fall apart in their houses right next door. Marcia was crying again, but this time she was nodding. I knew Lisa was unhappy. I knew she was drinking more. But I didn't say anything because it felt intrusive. Like it wasn't my business. It's all our business, I said. That's the whole point of a neighborhood. Later that afternoon, I walked down to Lisa's house. I didn't call first. Didn't text. Just went and knocked on her door like she used to do at mine before everything went wrong. Her husband, Dave, answered. He looked like he'd aged 10 years overnight. "She's in the backyard," he said. "She's been out there all day. Won't talk to me." I found her sitting on the patio, staring at her prized rose bushes. The ones she'd spent $300 on last spring. Probably with the fund money. For a long minute, neither of us said anything. Then she spoke without turning around. "You know what I told myself? Every time I did it? I told myself I deserved it. That I worked just as hard as everyone else. That those HOA fees were too high anyway. That no one would notice. You're good at telling yourself stories." She finally turned. Her eyes were red. No makeup. No perfectly styled hair. Just a woman who'd run out of ways to hide. "I hated you," she said. "And I didn't even know why. Not really. Until last night. When I was standing in that driveway watching everyone leave, it hit me. I hated you because you were happy. With your daughter and your husband who actually likes you and your garden that you grow yourself instead of paying someone to make pretty. I had all this, all the parties and the right friends and the perfect house, and I was miserable. And you, with your messy yard and your book club and your laughing through the windows at night, you had something I couldn't buy." I sat down on the bench next to her. "Lisa, I used to be the kind of person who walked into companies and tore them apart. I'd find the fraud, find the liar, and watch them get let out in handcuffs. I was good at it. Too good. And one day I looked at myself and realized I didn't like the person I was becoming. So I stopped. I married Mike, had Lily, moved here, and tried to be someone different. Someone normal. But I still had all those skills. And when you started leaving me out of things, when I saw the way you'd look at your friends and they'd all look away from me, it felt like being dissected. So I did what I used to do. I investigated. I found your weak spots. And I used them." She shook her head. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I need you to understand something. What I did, that was revenge. But I could have just shown you the evidence. I could have confronted you privately. Instead I humiliated you in front of everyone, and I told myself it was justice. But it wasn't. It was just the old me, the person I thought I'd left behind, coming back." I pulled a folded paper from my pocket. "A statement. Her account. It stops now. For both of us. Pay it back. Resign from the association. Come to the neighborhood meeting next week and be honest about what happened. Not just the money, but everything. How you felt. Why you did what you did. And if I don't?" I stood up. "Then I'll use the second envelope. And the third. And believe me, there's a third. You're not the only one who's been hiding things on this block." I left her sitting there, her roses swaying in the afternoon breeze. I didn't know if she'd do it. But I knew I'd meant what I said. The meeting happened on a Thursday evening. Everyone came, even the families who usually skip these things. We met in the Wilsons' big backyard, the one with the pool they let kids use in summer. Folding chairs borrowed from the church. Mosquito candles flickering in the twilight. Carolyn stood up first and explained what happened. Not with anger, but with the kind of steady voice she'd probably used for 20 years as a principal. Then Tom got up and resigned, his voice cracking. Then Lisa. She stood in front of 40 neighbors, including the ones who'd been at her party, and she told them everything. The lies. The fear. The loneliness. She didn't make excuses. She just laid it out like a patient on an operating table. When she finished, nobody clapped. Nobody yelled. The silence stretched out, uncomfortable and heavy. Then Dave stood up and put his arm around her. And Marcia walked over and hugged her. Then somebody else. And another. And I realized something sitting there in the mosquito-bitten twilight. Nobody wanted Lisa destroyed. They just wanted her to stop pretending. For my part, I got elected to a new position. Carolyn called it Community Integrity Advisor. Basically, I'd help with the books and make sure things stayed transparent. I said yes. But I also made it clear I wouldn't be digging into anyone's personal life unless they gave me a reason. 6 months later, we had a block party. A real one, not the kind Lisa used to throw. Hot dogs and hamburgers on portable grills. Kids running through sprinklers. Someone's uncle brought a banjo. Lisa brought potato salad. She'd made it herself, she said, and it was actually terrible, but nobody said a word about it. Mike found me later that evening, sitting on the porch, watching Lily chase fireflies with the other kids. "How you doing, detective?" He handed me a beer. "I'm okay." "Different." "Different good or different weird?" I leaned against him. "Both." I thought breaking Lisa would feel like winning. But it didn't. Winning was watching her show up at that meeting. Winning was Tom returning the mower without anyone forcing him. Winning is this, right now, drinking a beer with my husband while fireflies blink in the dark. He was quiet for a moment. "You ever miss it? The old work?" "Sometimes. But not enough to go back." I gestured at the yard, the neighbors, the kids. "This is harder. There's no case to solve, no bad guy to catch. Just people, being messy and human, every single day." "And you're okay with that?" I looked over at Lisa, who was laughing at something Carolyn said. Real laughter, not the performance kind. "Yeah," I said. "I really am." The party wound down around 10. As people gathered their dishes and sleepy children, Lisa caught my eye from across the street. She raised her hand in a small wave. I waved back. Not friends. Not enemies. Just two people who'd seen the worst in each other and decided to try something else. And in the end, that was better than revenge. Not as dramatic. Not as clean. But real. The last guest left at 10:30. Mike was inside putting Lily to bed. I stood alone in the driveway, same spot where Lisa had stood 6 months ago, watching the street go quiet. No second envelope this time. No third. Just a neighborhood learning, slowly and imperfectly, to actually be one.